me get us back to the spirit of the diner. And I'm not going to try to make either of you convince either of you to change your position. I just want you to comment on what my synthesis, I hope I do it well, of the argument each of you are making, and just comment on it, however you wish. If you want to completely rebut it, if you want to express some appreciation for it, please do. And for those who are also here, please raise your hand. We want lots of you to be able to in on the conversation. So if you'd like to get in on the conversation, if you're here on the two-way platform, please raise your hand. If you're watching on YouTube or X, please feel free to comment. So Rufus, I'll start with you. This seems to me to be things that are true. There has to be a greater check on Russia and China in the Arctic than we have now. That has to happen. I think the ambassador makes a good case. Denmark's not going to do it. And independence is not, they can be independent, but they're going to need an alliance with somebody because they can't do it themselves. And there's also extraction that would be in their interest and in the United States' interest to do. So to say oppose the sale, you're not really engaged with again, from this point of view, the reality of what's on the ground. This has to happen. The United States, in this case, is the indispensable nation. President Trump is driving towards an aggressive solution that other presidents have looked at. And that if the U.S. doesn't do it, what's the alternative? Denmark's not going to solve the problem of development and defense, and they're not going to solve it by themselves. So if not the United States, what's the alternative solution? How do you feel about that argument?
Is this a military conversation or a national security conversation or an economic security?
It's both. It's both. They're hand in hand because whatever economic, let me just finish. Whatever economic development we don't do in concert with the Greenlanders, Russia and China could do. So
that is
so it's a little bit of a zero-sum thing in terms of defense and economics, and they need to do both. And that would include not just extraction. It would also include tourism, right? We need to build, they need to build that up, and they're not going to be able to do it on their own. They simply don't have the wherewithal to build the roads and the airport improvements and the luxury resorts and all the things they could do. So again, there's that argument to me is President Trump's proposing the only solution that gets us where they need to get and where we need to get. What are your thoughts on that?
On the economic argument, because I do think you have to take them very different. I think you have to take them separately. There is zero reason, and I can't say this more strongly, that we cannot engage in this conversation right now. If American private industry, Ambassador Sands did this, I did this, every ambassador, every American ambassador, as well as other ambassadors. Obviously, the Australians have been extraordinarily invested in mining in Greenland with some success, but actually some disastrous outcomes. It is a challenging place to work, but let's do it. That's what I say. Let's open up hotels. Let's expand the airports. We've all done this. I know Ambassador Sands has done it as well. Again, this does not require American ownership of Greenland.
I don't know what you're saying I've done, but I'd like to know what you're saying I've done.
Hold on one second.
I think you've encouraged American private investment in Greenland.
Yeah, Rufus, Rufus, what about the defense piece then? How do you address that?
So I think the defense piece. So look, right, and Ambassador Sands mentioned this as well, that there was a time, of course, when essentially the American military presence on Greenland, which then was sort of expanded into a larger NATO military presence in Greenland, was considerably more significant. There were multiple bases. The main commercial airport in Greenland, as Ambassador Sands suggested, was an American Air Force base at one point. Now, what has happened since the end of the Cold War was that American military presence has scaled back. There would be no one more excited to have a conversation of a more scaled up American military presence in Greenland than the Greenlanders and the Danes. Again, this would require a negotiation, but they would absolutely welcome it and embrace it, in my mind. Now, it would, of course, I will say this, though, Mark, and this is the one thing that's very, very important. The Tula base, which is now called the Patuxent Space Base, and Ambassador Sands has been there more recently than I have, but it's the most expensive military base in the country to maintain. At least it was when I was there. Now, that means that if we are going to greatly expand our American military presence, in Greenland, we will have to make the tough budget decisions that do exist in that part of the world. Ambassador Sands talks about Alaska over and over again. Alaska is by the way, it's Alaska, if you just look at the map, is considerably farther south than Greenland. The part of Greenland that is above the above the Arctic Circle is essentially about 2/3 of Greenland, whereas Alaska, it's only like the top little bit. This is extremely complicated. That being said, if we want to increase our American military presence in Greenland, let's do it. If there is a need and a desire and a national security concern there, we should absolutely invest. Let's do it. Again, does not require us just throwing out decades of diplomacy between us and one of our greatest allies on the planet.
All right, Ambassador
just if I may, really briefly, Rufus Gifford, Ambassador Gifford is ignoring the fact that Greenland's going independent. Denmark's not even part of the conversation. This is going to be Greenland, and whoever they partner with, we hope that it's us. And that's why it's very important to wrap this up. They're literally going independent. It's faster than I thought it would be. And I think that the reason that they've accelerated the timetable is because President Trump was elected and that they see opportunity for the Greenlanders. And, you know, our Pacific Space Base, that's great. But there's a lot that's not being paid attention to. When I got to post, so much wasn't under the US sort of eye, if you will. We had taken our eye off the region and we had just kind of walked away. I couldn't get State Department assets there. I couldn't get DoD assets there. When I went to EUCOM, they were totally uninterested. I was in talks with NATO to get more NATO assets, but you know, NATO has their mission and it's much more complicated because NATO has all the member countries. But Greenland, it's very, very tough. The people, you know, they have societal challenges and there's capacity limitations because it's only 57,000 people in this giant body of land. But as a matter of fact, they want opportunity. They want more good paying jobs. They want to actually be able to develop in their way, you know, but they love hunting and fishing. They don't want to leave that behind. So it's really important to get that right on behalf of the Greenlanders. President Trump understands the national security issue. He also understands that China has control of most rare earth mineral mining and processing in the world. Greenland has huge deposits, and that's opportunity as well. When I got to post, China had a minority interest in a majority of the mines in Greenland. They had tried to pull the Greenlanders into their Belt and Road Initiative, flown the premier and his government and CEOs to Beijing, rolled out the red carpet. They tried to fund and build the airports the Greenlanders wanted. They tried to buy an old U.S. deepwater port. The U.S., with the peace dividend after the wall fell, the Soviet Union fell, we really pulled back our defense spending. And the consequence was that we left the region basically to Russia and then to China also.
Yeah.